What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. It is the Beast Bailey. What's going on? Man, been a long time since I made a video, guys. Been a long time. But yeah, as you can see by the title, we're doing a Star Wars book review. This is a first on the channel, something other than Georgia football related. This is my first Star Wars book review, and hopefully the first of many. I am an avid Star Wars fan. I always have been. I've always liked the movies. I've always just been a movies fan. I have read some comics. I've dove into the canon comics. I have just recently dove into the canon novels. But I am not a crazy fanatic fan. I'm just a fan. I enjoy the movies. I know. I can tell obviously what a good movie is from a bad movie, whatever. But the main purpose of what I was trying to do, I'm going to review this book. This is the first book I finished. I have a couple of them I'm reading. But this is Star Wars Dooku, Jedi Lost. This book is by Cavan Scott. It's a script by Cavan Scott. So it's a script instead of your regular book. Now, I believe this is a YA novel, so it's a young adult novel. I'm pretty sure it is, but I'm not 100% on that. The actual writing is it's young adult-like. I mean, it is. I mean, it's kind of, I'm pretty sure it's a young adult novel, and I can kind of tell, I wasn't really paying attention to it when I was reading it, but when I finished the book, I was like, yeah, it's kind of young adultish, but yeah. Well, let's go over the cover first. So we got Asajj Ventress up at the top, and we got Dooku down here as a Jedi. Yeah. So let's talk about it. All right. So there's going to be some spoilers in this video. There's going to be some spoilers, but the main overall plot of the book is you are learning about Count Dooku in his progression of how he went from a Jedi to pretty much being Count Dooku, or Darth Tyrannus. I believe that's his name, Darth Tyrannus. Is that what he goes by? Tyrannus. So he is known as Darth Tyrannus, but he goes by Count Dooku. That's what we all know him as from the prequels, is Count Dooku. And his character in the prequels was so bland and so boring. There was not a lot of backstories about Count Dooku, and there's not much known about him. Now, like I said, I've only read some of the comics. I haven't done any Legends comics or Legends novels, so I don't know if there's any material out there about Count Dooku. There might not be. I have read the one-shot comic, the canon comic about Count Dooku, but it doesn't go anywhere in his past. But I believe all we really knew about him was that he was once a Jedi, and now he's under Palpatine. And I think that was really all that was known about him during the prequels and kind of in the recent memory until this book came out. But I could be wrong. But Count Dooku, he is just known as Dooku in his training. So he is from the planet Sereno. He's from a very wealthy family that pretty much runs the planet. And he was given away as a baby to the temple, I believe, or he was given away as a baby. I believe, I can't remember. I think he was brought to the temple, but I could be wrong. He was given away as a baby because when he was born, they knew what he was. I never really got that part. I never really understood that part, that he knew what he was. Like, was he forced using as an infant? I don't understand that. Like, how do you know what he was going to become? I really didn't understand that part. That was really the one flaw. One early flaw was that when I was like, that makes no sense. But he's given away, and the temple takes him in. The Jedi's take him in. The Jedi take him in, and he pretty much starts training. He is very strong with the Force. He's very powerful with the Force. And so they start training him. And so he is friends with Sifo Dyas, Braylon, another one called Lean Katosha. I'm not great with names, so just bear with me on the names. So yeah, those are some of his friends that he was training with. And he is pretty much, he's a young Jedi Padawan, or Jedi in training. I don't think he's a Padawan yet. And he's training, and, he breaks rules. He's like 11, 10. And that's really how the book plays out as well, is they show him from when he's, I believe, as early as 7 or 8 to like 11 to like 17, 18, like 22, and 30, and then 50s and 60s. Like, it really goes over his whole life, this book. And this book is set way before The Phantom Menace, because he's, and he's in his 60s in the prequels, mid-60s. And so this book is set way before the prequels. And it pretty much just shows him, and, he's making his friends, and he's pretty much just training. And when it comes to him getting selected by a master, Master Yoda actually takes Dooku under him, because he is, he has been kind of mischievous lately. And so Master Yoda wants to take Dooku under him and train him. And so Yoda takes him, he's training him. Dooku still is kind of making mistakes. He's a young teen. He's just being a teenager. But all while this is going on, Count Dooku is sent to the planet, hang on, was it Sereno? Dang, I don't remember. Is it called Sereno? Dang, I wish I knew. Man. Sereno? I believe that's the planet, Sereno. So, he is sent to Sereno for a festival or something like that. It's a festival going on. And when he goes, he's like 11 years old, 11, 12 years old, or something like that. He sees this girl there, and he senses something in her. He senses that she is related to him. And it turns out her name is Jenza, and it's his sister. And he has a brother named Ramil, and their father and mother are the rulers of the planet. And they're not great people. His sister is the nicest one of the four. She is the best person out of the four. The other three are just terrible people. And so he ends up touching this dragon statue in this hall, in this assembly there. And the statue, like, he can hear it roaring. And, like, he can hear it inside. He can hear it, but nobody else can hear it. And so this statue is going to play a big role later at the end of the book. And so he touches the statue. He hears the roar. He then goes, then the building collapses and they're trapped. Then he has to use his, force to move the rocks. Turns out Master Yoda was moving the rocks, not him. He thought he was doing it, but it wasn't him. It was Master Yoda. And he was very discouraged by that. And then, I can't remember. Nope. I remember now. All right. So he leaves. And what's really unique about this book is being told by Asajj Ventress. She is Count Dooku's Padawan as a Sith Padawan now, or his apprentice or his assassin, whatever. She is under him as Count Dooku, and she is pretty much telling this whole story through holograms that Dooku has made all those years. He has them stored, and she is on his ship. She is looking for his sister, and the current time of him being in his 60s and being Count Dooku. She is on a mission to find his sister, and as she is traveling in his ship, she finds his desk and like his little office, and she's going through all these holograms, and she is watching them, and that is what is telling the story. And she'll have little narrated sections where she talks about it, but she is the one telling this whole story. It is not Count Dooku telling the story. It is Asajj pretty much telling the story, as in she's watching the holograms, and she is also talking to her former Jedi master, Kai Narek. He died in a battle years before, and his ghost talks to her throughout the entire book. His Force ghost is constantly talking to her and trying to connect with her, telling her that Count Dooku is not who you think he is, and you need to, steer away from that. But she does not want to believe that. Obviously, she hates the Jedi, but she also wanted to be a Jedi, but she was never sent to the temple for training. And you really get that. You really can feel that bond between Kai and Asajj. You really can feel that bond. Like he hates what happens to him, and she blames the Jedi on his death and all that. But that bond is really unique between them two, and you really see Count Dooku and Asajj's bond just a little bit. How he treats her, when she don't obey him, he'll shoot her with lightning. And you really see that bond as well. But the way this book is portrayed is through Asajj. She is telling the story through the holograms, and you'll get to see that Jinza, which is Dooku's sister, and him are talking through holograms throughout this whole story. They talk very early on, then the council finds out, and they make it stop, and that's kind of how that plays out. And you really see the evolution of Dooku and how he slowly is starting to, the council's decisions are really starting to, everything he's trying to do is getting shut down, and he's getting told no. And it's very similar to Anakin Skywalker in a way, but Anakin is a little different, but it was very similar to how, Anakin, that's kind of how Anakin slowly turned to the dark side, was the council. Now, obviously, Count Dooku, he was under Palpatine in the prequels, so is Palpatine in the book. Palpatine is in this book for one page, and I'm just going out, he's one page. Palpatine's in this book for one page. It's when he's still the senator at Naboo. He's introduced to him from a friend. And that is it. They're introduced. They say hello, and Palpatine's like, "Oh, I gotta go, I'm busy." And so, one page we talk to Palpatine. So, I don't know. I was kind of I thought Palpatine would be in this book a little bit more. So Count Dooku, he ends up going back to Sereno because his mother passed away, and he was invited to the funeral. The council highly recommended he do not go to this funeral because it is a family matter. He said he doesn't have a family. He is just going for the sole purpose of, just to be there for them. So he goes, and things go awry a little bit, and the ground starts to shake. There's things that are happening, and his mother's casket falls over, and Jinza at that point does not want him anywhere near her. She cuts off all communication to Dooku, and that pretty much sums up for about a little bit. There's really no communication for a while. He tries to reach out. She doesn't respond. Eventually, she starts to reach out again. He's not responding. And years are passing by during this time. And Sifo Dyas, which is one of Dooku's best friends, he starts to have these visions of a world pretty much falling from the sky and burning and just being destroyed. And he has had, ever since they went to this, they went to this cave, they went to this thing. Sifo Dyas and Dooku went to, might not have been Sifo. This was in the very first beginning of the book. Sifo, he started having these visions of just, like, he pretty much predicts the future when he touches stuff, and he can predict the future. And he kept predicting, he pretty much was seeing Dooku turn to the dark side, but he didn't know that he didn't know what that was until the end. And so he hears people chanting Dooku's name. He hears people saying Dooku's name and Sith and all this and that. And so he when he touches something, he sees it. And honestly, it's his character. He goes from being a Jedi Padawan, and he absolutely just mentally is just so corrupted mentally. And honestly, you feel bad for the character because he goes through so much, and he still has visions and nightmares all the way through the whole book to the end of the book. He stays with Lean Kenosha, and he stays with her because she can help him. She's a Jedi that's kind of straight away. She kind of does her own thing, and so he stays with her because she can help him with the visions and stuff. And so we're slowly working our way through the book. We learn more about Asajj Ventress and learn more about their backstory. And then you kind of get to the end of the book. They go back to Sereno because they're under attack. Ramil, the brother, is pretty much in control of the planet. Their father died, and he is ordering an attack on their own people using droids. The droids in the prequels, commander droids. And his sister doesn't know anything about this, but Dooku, Sifo Dyas, Lean, and I believe Braylon show up. They all show up to help. And the ground's shaking. There's been earthquakes of a sudden. And the earthquakes are being caused by the dragon. The statue of the dragon, the real one, lives underneath the island. It keeps the planet together. And so ever since Dooku touched it, it has awoken and it's slowly been waking up more and more. And now it's ready to go. So Lean and Dooku fall into the pit. Lean breaks her shoulder. The dragon eventually flies out. Dooku eventually kills the dragon because he has to. Because Dooku actually was controlling this dragon. This is something he learned from Lean using a bird creature. I think a conveyor, what it was. And he can be with the bird. He can control it. But Dooku, he when he controls it, he starts getting lightning on his fingers, and that's a Sith trait, is having lightning. He's force lightning, and so he has to kill the bird. He does. He kills the bird after he kills his brother because his brother is insane, and he has to kill his brother because his brother wants to kill him, and he wants him to kill Jinza, use his lightsaber, and something like that. It's crazy. And so Dooku, that is the end of the book, pretty much, is when Dooku kills that dragon, that creature, the Takar or whatever, I think it's his name. He kills that dragon. Now, there's a lot of moments in this book where you see Dooku slowly become more forceful with how he wants to get information. He's choking people. He'll force lightning a few folks. He is just very forceful. And Qui-Gon Jinn is Dooku's apprentice. Qui-Gon Jinn is is Dooku's Padawan. That is who he picked. And Qui-Gon, is very, everybody knows about Qui-Gon. He is a Jedi that's considered a gray Jedi. He's one of those that really was, he was with them, but also he disagreed on certain things. And I believe Count Dooku's influence on him is what set that up. And the next book is Masters and Apprentice. This is the next book that follows right after Dooku. So I've actually started reading this already. But Masters and Apprentice, that book follows right after. And in Qui-Gon, you see that. I mean, he in the movies too, and in Phantom Menace, you see it. His character is so straight off because of Count Dooku. And I really believe that's I believe it's an influence. And I mean, it may be not, but I just think it is. I mean, that character, he's a very conservative Jedi. And he doesn't agree with everything. And Count Dooku didn't either. Count Dooku didn't. And it really shows you that these Jedi, and you really see it too in the new movies with like Luke, or not Luke, but Rey, is the Jedi are constantly being pulled to the dark side, and they have to, pretty much just ignore it. They're constantly being pulled to the dark side. And Dooku is the same way. He constantly would let the dark side ease into him, and eventually he just couldn't let it go, Now, at the end of the book, when he kills the dragon, he says that he no longer wants to be a part of the Jedi Council because he's on the council. He doesn't want to be a part of that. Now, with that being said, he doesn't want to be on the council. What does he do next? Oh, yeah. He wants to rebuild the planet of Sereno. He wants to build the planet. And so we also see a little time skip. Asajj Ventress is also, she has found Jinza. Yeah. She found Jinza. So she found her. And Count Dooku shows up to where they're at, or he found her, and this is when Count Dooku is, current time Count Dooku. And she is trying to convince him to go back to the Jedi, finally get back to the light side, and he's not having it. And he tells Asajj Ventress to kill his sister, who he had a great relationship with throughout the entire book. Have had a great time. And so she kills her. And Asajj Ventress, and during this moment, she was talking to Kai. Kai is trying so hard to convince her not to do this. And, and it was crazy. Jinza was the one, she was pleading for her life. But it was also Kai's. Their words were like in unison. She thought she was talking to Kai, and so she was like killing Kai off, but she killed Jinza. So, and it ends with Asajj talking about how she doesn't know who she are, and that's the end of the book. But obviously, this book's all over the place. It goes back in time a lot. It really jumps around. It does start him at an early age and slowly to where he gets to like in his 60s. Now, I jumped all over. I honestly did. I'm not, like I said, I don't review books. But this is a spoiler review. So these are all spoilers. I did miss out on a couple of things. I didn't mention a few things. But at the end of the day, this book was awesome. I liked it. It's a great story about Count Dooku. You know his backstory now. You know why he is Count Dooku. But there is just a few. There's really one big problem I have with this book, and that is you don't see when he becomes Count. You don't see when he becomes a Sith or Palpatine's Padawan. You don't see that. You don't get that. You just he's Count Dooku in certain phases, and then he's Jedi Dooku in certain phases. You get him as a Padawan moving up through the rankings to Knight, Master, and then you see him as just Count Dooku with the Saj Ventress under him. There's those two rows, but there's no median to those. You know what I'm saying? There's no median. There's no meat to that potato. So, and that's really the big problem with the book to me is there was no. Okay, yes, we seen him when he became Count Dooku, but he was still very much a good person, and he was still. He wasn't. He wasn't a great person, but he was. He wasn't a Sith at that point. You know what I'm saying? We never seen that road where he became a Sith. We never seen the physical road. We seen the back history of him slowly becoming, with the turmoiling, everything being told no, like kind of like Anakin, everything slowly happening, get to a point, but you don't see the moment. You don't see his transition from former Jedi to Sith. And that's my only problem with the book. Like I said, it's not a huge problem, but for a book we call Jedi Lost, which hence the name Jedi Lost, it is correct. I mean, that's what the book's about. But when I think of Jedi Lost, I think of somebody who just gets lost in their own ideas, and that's pretty much the book. So, I mean, the book is called Jedi Lost, and it means what it says. It's what it means. If you like the prequels, if you like the Clone Wars animated show, I recommend it. I do. So, never once is Darth Tyrannus mentioned in this book, I don't think. Never once. It says, but who was he before he became the right hand of the Sith? Yeah. Yep. Yep. And there's pretty much a little plot line of the book. Let y'all see it. You want to read it? But yeah, Star Wars Dooku Jedi Lost. It's a good book. It was a good book. I can't give it a ranking. I have to create a scale. Story, it was a good story. It was a great story. I mean, it was good. Like I said, the only one problem I had was that connection. I wish it showed the transition, the physical transition, instead of a history transition. You know what I'm saying? But that's no problem at all. It's a great book. I'm gonna try to get on to Masters and Apprentice and hopefully get that review up soon. So, peace.